This is Vicky from Learning Home Volunteers, and it's been so beautiful outside. There's such beauty everywhere. As I drive to work each day, I drive by gardens with different flowers in so many colors. Yellows and reds and purples and yellows. Oh, I guess I said that already, but pinks and orange. I mean, there are just so many colors. It's amazing. It seems like my drive to work is turned into one big splash of color. And with such a flashy entrance into our lives, I thought we should formally introduce flowers to your child. In this session, we're going to be working with live flowers, many different kinds. Some of the flowers have been donated by some of our volunteers directly out of their garden, and some were purchased by friendly vendors. Very few of the flowers, well, actually in the world, can actually be eaten by either plants, um, by people, or pets. Lilies, especially, are very toxic to pets if eaten, so please take care to keep the flowers out of the range of pets. And obviously, no child should be eating any of the flowers that we've sent home. We know that exploration from a child takes some time, so please put your flowers in water when they arrive to give your child enough time to explore them to their heart's content. We've been told by the vendor that the flowers should last 2 to 3 weeks. So, more about the exploration later. Let's take a look at the books for this week. What book better to start with than The Reason for a Flower? This book shares with us the reasons flowers exist and their importance to our everyday lives. Our storyteller Nicole has a special surprise at the video about some special flowers in her life. Flowers have long been used to share beauty with people that we care about, and this next book, Flower Garden, is a lovely book with a beautiful story and a lovely, simple rhyming text with a surprise of who the gift is for and why. We have another book by a local author, illustrator Sean Harris, which we've used some of his books before, The Polar Bear in the Snow and Triangle. This one's called Have You Ever Seen a Flower? This book is so special, and we've included one in your box. It is made using only colored pencils and stencils. Stencils are plastic cutouts that you can color around or in, and we actually have an activity to create your own pictures using stenciled and colored pictures, and we can't wait to see what your child will do. This session is different than some of our previous sessions. We're going to spend a lot of time integrating our sensory exploration and language and math. I guess you'd call it a really well-rounded session. Before beginning our work as little scientists and learning the parts of flowers and exploring flowers in details, let's take a little bit of time and do some writing and recording of what the flowers are and what are their attributes. And in your box, you're going to find a recording sheet that's either in English or in Spanish. But before we get started, get your ruler out from your teacher's kits so your little scientist can use to measure your flower. It would be great if your child could record as much as possible. We know many of the children do not write their letters and numbers yet, but they can still use the form. And here are some ideas about how to use that form. Let's say, for example, our first flower, which is a pink carnation. You could ask the child to use a marker in the same color as the flower and mark what the color is in that first column, like this. And to measure, they would use their cardboard measuring device, the piece of cardboard with the lines on it, and place it next to the flower and count how many squares there are. And then they could put a line in the for the measurement for each square that they counted, say like 3. And they could write 3 lines and how long the flower is. For the next column, does the flower have a scent, which would be answered with yes or no. If it doesn't, they can put an X in the field by making 2 marks like that, and so on. And if your child does have an interest in writing, you can always write the letter in highlighter and then have them trace it like this. So I'd put it in N and then they would trace the N. So even your child, just regardless of where they are with their writing career, there is space for them to be able to participate in these colored forms. So, we're excited to ask our little scientists to dissect our flowers and examine their different parts. And to help with this process, we provided a number of different kinds of flowers so that you can examine them with the many different species. We have created a cardboard sheet with 3 white lines. Each of those lines is actually a piece of double-sided tape. To make it stick and have things stick to the double-sided tape, you need to take the white layer off. So just take it off and then you'll notice it's sticky. To dissect the flower, you can take off the leaves by either using scissors or with their hands. And then you can add that to your sticky tape. And then a petal. And then using the diagram on the left, which you have in your box, have the children find the other colored pieces in each of the pictures. For example, the word flower has all of the things in color. That means that everything you see in this picture is actually part of what we call a flower. And in the next example, the pistil, in the next box, we only see one piece of the flower, this piece right here, in color, in brown. That is the piece that's called the pistil. And they can cut that out of their flower and put it on their tape and so forth and so on with each of the different pieces of the flower. Who knew that there were so many pieces to a flower? Don't forget to use your handy magnifying glass to get a really good look. You and your scientists may find some very interesting surprises when you look carefully. You may find that your child loves the idea of taking flowers apart. Destruction certainly is one of my children's favorite things. Um, Certainly, much is learned by looking inside the flower with a magnifying glass, and that's easier if all the parts are apart. But once it's done, we have a bunch of parts, and we could use those parts to create art. They could build a garden like this little girl is doing on the left onto sticky paper or sticky contact paper, or they could glue pieces of flowers to make a flower of their own. Or they could create a petal collage like what's done here, where they make a picture using the petals of the flower. Or they could add petals to one of their drawings. This girl put petals on their fairy to make it look more fancy. Well, we can't wait to see what glue, paper, and flower parts turn into in your house. I'm sure they'll be all different and just as delightful. What? More things to do with flowers? Oh, you bet. This is still flower exploration. How about pounding flowers? Did you know that many of the natural dyes originated from flowers? We can help the color come out of the flowers by using our dowel to either pound the flowers onto paper or to roll them on the paper. So to do this, you want to place your flowers on a piece of paper like this person has done here. And next, so that they don't move, you can put a piece of wax paper over the top or another piece of paper and then get to rolling and pounding. And what magically will appear on the paper is a cool color image of the flower. Finally, please save a couple flowers for our art activities next week. Make sure to keep them in the water. Well, I hope you and your scientists have been counting petals as you've dissected your flowers and leaves, but I thought it would be great to include an activity which works on print numbers and includes a little fine motor activity. In your box, you're going to find a set of circles on sticks. Each of them will have written on it a print number. And in the bag, you're going to find 12 paper clips, which, by the way, are choking hazards, so be careful. The idea of this game is to have the child put the correct number of paper clips to match the number. So in our first example, we have a circle with the number 2 on it, so the child should put 2 clips. And for those that are working on their print numbers, you can have them add a little bit of writing practice by having them trace the number on with a highlighter on the card that's already there. Now, I know this is activity number 7 and that 7 doesn't come after the number 2, but we were really lucky and a donor donated a pound of dried lavender. So when they heard we were doing flowers, they brought it over, and so we added another activity at the last minute. I'm sure when you opened your box, you could smell the lavender. Lavender is said to help with sleep, and many people scent their pillowcases with lavender or have lavender next to the bed. So we thought we could make some sachets. Making sachets is actually really easy. So in the bag numbered 7, you will find a cloth bag and a bag of lavender. Using a spoon or their hands, a spoon is harder, they can fill their bag with lavender. And once the bag is filled, you want to pull the strings closed and tie a knot to keep it closed. Now, some interesting things about lavender. You can help the lavender smell even more than it's smelling now, but later, maybe when it doesn't smell quite as much, by microwaving the lavender in its bag in the microwave. The heat that the microwave generates actually releases the oils of the lavender and creates the great smell. And then one last thought, you can actually use the dowel you have and crush the lavender too by just rolling over it again and again. Well, that's certainly a lot of exploration for 1 week. We can't wait to see what happens with your little scientists and flowers. Please post. We are always so impressed with the great work that they do. Next week, we will turn our flower exploration into flower creation and art. And that sounds fun as well. Until then, we hope that you have happy flower exploration.